a lot of polls have come out over the last week. And I think part of it, that's why we're talking about with the primetime address, Trump's numbers are plummeting. Trump is almost more than 20 points underwater in approval. That is historically bad territory. But Democrats are not up 20. They may be up 4 or 5 points in a generic ballot. Things are just not lining up. Voters are this unhappy. Why is it not showing up more clearly in the race? Matt, what do you make of what's going on here?
What we're looking at here is a gap between Trump being about 20 points underwater and the generic ballot showing Democrats up. I'm going to do the meme that's now dead among the kids, 6 or 7 points. Being up 6 or 7 points on the generic ballot is pretty good. That's very close to the +8 territory the Democrats occupied in 2018 when they had an absolute blue wave landslide in the midterm elections. So it's not bad, but the question is, why are you not seeing like a 1-to-1? Trump and the Republicans are losing all these voters. Why aren't the Democrats gaining all these voters? I will say that there are some technical things going on here with who you're polling in each of these. That accounts for some of it. Some of it accounts for the fact that it's really hard when you're a political party that doesn't hold the presidency, doesn't hold majorities in either chamber of Congress to remake your brand. Shoot, it's hard to remake your brand just not holding the presidency. The reality for Democrats is that their brand is deeply underwater as a party, and they're not going to fix that until they embody their brand in a presidential standard bearer, until there's a nominee who kind of stands for what the Democratic Party is supposed to be. Voters are going to not update their view of the Democratic Party. That's the issue going on that the polling's picking up. I will say, though, that there was news this week that Trump and therefore Mike Johnson have flip-flopped on the Senate compromise to end the Department of Homeland Security shutdown. And the fact that they've caved to Democrats' demands means that Democrats are pitching a shutout on the shutdowns. That's 2 shutdowns that they've won politically. I think it's fair to say that Democrats are doing what they can do. They're controlling what they can control. Do they make mistakes? Sure. Are they being perfect? Definitely not. But they have racked up some wins here, and that is significant.
Part of this, I think, is by design. When your opponent is hanging themselves, and that's what Republicans are doing, Democrats have to get out of the way. And I think clearly what we see and the reason why some of these numbers don't line is they're not out there putting out issues. They're not putting out their platforms. They're not campaigning. They're doing the smart thing. They're just staying out of the way. And if I was advising Democrats, I would tell them, you got another month or 2 of this where you just let Republicans implode and then kind of come in with it. I think the cautionary tale here is it can't be an all anti-Trump message. And that's going to be the temptation, because if they do, they'll never realize those gains because Americans are past that. But I think those numbers don't line up right now just because it's the time in the cycle where they won't or shouldn't.
Speaking of Republicans imploding, let's turn the tables. You just prompted me with a question of why aren't Democrats doing a little bit better given the political environment? I'm going to turn the tables on you and say, are Republicans doing as badly as they possibly could in this political environment? And the case and the evidence that I would offer is the Conservative Political Action Committee, the CPAC conference, which is the big confab for Republicans, concluded last week. And coming out of it, it sure looked this week like Republicans were as divided and confused as they have ever been. Donald Trump continues to withhold an endorsement in the key Texas Senate race because of the demands of the MAGA base, who seems to want to go all in on a very flawed candidate that exposed them to a loss. There were fractures evident at that conference. Now Trump is playing footsie with the idea of firing Pam Bondi. It does seem to be a Republican Party at odds with itself. You are a quintessential insider. Is this true? Is that perception right? What's going on?
For those who don't know, CPAC is the annual political conference that's been attended by conservative activists since the 70s. The inaugural kickoff was Governor Ronald Reagan, where he talked about American exceptionalism, a shiny city on the hill. CPAC wasn't just a powerhouse. It was the defining organization for conservatives. and it packed the rooms, party atmosphere. It could make or break your campaign. And this year was just a mess. It wasn't just a bad CPAC. It exploded a generational split, war fatigue inside MAGA, a movement losing cultural momentum. And that's a problem because in our base is conservatives. That has always been our go-to. And when you map out the numbers we need to win, and for those who sort of don't think and live and die by campaigns like I do all the time, we look at kind of how many Republicans we need, what's that percentage. We get about 91, 92% of the Republican vote. We get about, 7 or 8% of the Democrat vote. And depending on registration, that gets our model of how many swing voters and independents we need to go to. But our intensity, how we focus and divide our time is we know conservatives are going to show up for our candidates. When CPAC is starting to fail, we're seeing that less momentum. You're seeing conservatives who are not part of MAGA anymore. They don't like what they see, so they're leaving in droves. And then you see the Pam Bondi side of things. You can see even at the top in the White House, they're starting to see they have some serious problems, and they're trying to do a bunch of Hail Marys whenever they can. I actually do think we have some serious infrastructure problems that I see every day when we're talking. I see it in polling. What we know with polling is a lot of this stuff is self-identified. And I'm even starting to see when we're writing questions of like, are you MAGA? Are you more traditional? Because we see that split happening over and over again. And it is a problem for us right now.
If I could just build on that for a second, because
yeah.
I know we're over our rundown segment time, but this is just too interesting to leave alone. I want to quote to you from the documentary from the 1980s, The Lost Boys, and the idea that you never invite a vampire into your house because it renders you powerless. It feels to me like what you guys, my friends, as we used to say back in Congress, my friends in the Republican Party, what you've done is you've invited the MAGA vampire into your house, and it's rendered you powerless. There are clear pathways to take if you as a party want to win. That's a function of a political party, is to win. We are here to win the election. We're here to win the game.
Exactly.
The base wants people to fight. They want intensity. They want firebrands. That's not the same thing that the party wants. And what you see right now seems to me to be those issues at loggerheads, and the party that still exists, people like you who are not MAGAfied, who are not Trump fans, who are trying to hold on to the DNA that you feel the Republican Party used to have, you are rendered somewhat powerless. I don't want to say that you're totally cuckolded here, man, but like you are rendered somewhat powerless because there's no way for Republicans to win elections without the MAGA base. You rely on them to get the sheer volume of numbers to win elections, and you have to keep them engaged. And so you see this schizophrenic behavior of we can't endorse clearly the stronger candidate in John Cornyn in Texas because we need the MAGA intensity. We can't have them abandon us. You see all of the stuff that Pam Bondi has done, especially around the Epstein files, which was meant to cater to the base, but it's completely alienating mainstream Republicans and independents. It's not what you need to do to win. It's a significant problem. You may just have to age your way out of it. And you know what I mean by that demographically.
I do. And I love the fact that you called Lost Boys a documentary. So that's fantastic. That's a great word.
What? It's not?
No, it is. It is.
Yeah. Good.
But you're 100% right on where we are, because we did invite them into the House. And you see that with Matt Schlapp, who runs CPAC, who is all in on Trump, brought him in as many times as he could. They endorsed even when they didn't need to, even when he's clearly not a conservative. And so you brought the vampire in, you brought him in, and now the people that you needed to make up on CPAC are leaving in droves. But the problem we're running into in election after election is every Republican who runs is running on, I'm doing this for Trump, or I will do this for Trump. Or you see John Cornyn, who twisted himself and changes his views to try to get that Trump endorsement. And we're winning MAGA's winning a lot of primaries, which means the Republican candidate is going to lose a lot of general elections. And that is what spells a disaster, because what we are seeing, and I see it in polling after polling, is that the Republicans that you need to win are not supporting this shit show. And so they're going to not show up at the polls. They're not voting for the Democrat. And that's the stupid argument we always say. Who are they going to vote for? They're just not going to vote for you. They're going to vote. They're going to show up. They're going to vote for every other Republican out there that makes sense to them. But they're not going to vote for more of this circus, more of this disaster. And we've created a system that is untenable for us as a party. And we see it with the Bondi stuff, with the Cornyn stuff, with CPAC. Every early indication that we are seeing in April of 2026 is that it is going to be a wipeout for us in November.